Hey, welcome back into another preview of the upcoming basketball season, and we turn our sights now to Denver. Yeah, we're going to be looking at Denver here today. We're going to start with the girls, and then a little bit later on you'll see another video, and that will be about the boys' upcoming basketball season. If you missed our videos on Janesville, they came out yesterday, last night, whatever, however you want to describe it. Talked about the girls, of course, talked about the boys. Find those videos on my Twitter. Find me at Taylor from Kway over there on Twitter. You can also, I think, find those on the station Twitter as well. I believe they retweeted them. Perhaps not. But you can find them for sure on my Twitter, and you can find them on YouTube as well. We also talked Waverly Shell Rock a couple of days ago, both the boys and girls there as well. So those 4 videos are all available. And with that being said, let's jump into Denver girls basketball. Let's see what we have on our hands coming up this season for Denver. This is a team in Denver who last year went 7-15. Obviously, not the best record. Obviously under 500. Didn't have this season that they wanted, but I can tell you that they were competitive in a number of those games that they lost. And really, honestly, compared to the season before, they looked a better team, if I'm being completely honest with you. They did lose to Nashville Plainfield in the first round of postseason, so they'll be looking to, at the very least, take that a little bit further. This is a team that lost some seniors. It did lose some seniors. You think about Katie Terrell and Emma Larson and Annie Place, Haley Barkow. Those 4 probably are the biggest names. And if I'm being honest, the biggest losses there of those 4 would be Katie Terrell and Emma Larson, because those were 2 girls who would go get rebounds and do some of the dirty work. I especially think of Emma Larson. She's just that type of player where she would just go do maybe what other players maybe didn't want to do so much. And so I think Emma Larson is a big loss. She averaged 7.1 rebounds a game last year. So you lose that. Katie Terrell averaged 2.1. I mean, you're nearing 10 points or 10 rebounds a game just between those 2. So the question becomes, where do you get those rebounds from? And that's one of my big questions for Denver. There's not a whole lot of signs on this roster. You do have Lila Meyer, who will play down in the post, and she does a great job. She's very physical. She's not scared of bigger defenders. She's not scared of contact by any stretch of the imagination. She is an absolute bulldog down in the paint. You don't worry about Lila at all, but there's just not a whole lot of other size around that can help Lila down in the paint. And I think there are going to be some times when, if she's the only post player that you've got, she will get overwhelmed just simply because she doesn't have quite enough size and maybe could use some help from time to time. Now, perhaps there are some younger players that maybe I don't know about just yet who can provide a little bit of size in the middle there for Denver. Perhaps that's the case. We'll have to wait and see. If it's not, it puts some more pressure on those players on the outside. And so you ask, who are some of those players on the outside? And well, Cambry Clinton is the first one we have to talk about. Cambry Clinton, she's fantastic to watch. She's a really good player. She can shoot the rock. She averaged 12 points a game last year. I think that number goes up this year. Lila Meyer averaged 9.5, by the way. I think they both could and probably should be averaging in double figures this year. That's what I would say. Cambry, 37 made 3-pointers, shot 31% from beyond the arc. That's not bad. It's also a number that I think maybe could go up just a little bit. And then Jaden McMahon, who will be a junior this year, she too can shoot the rock a little bit, about 30% from beyond the arc, 31 made 3-pointers. I get that percentage up just a little bit. I think that would be ideal for Denver and for Coach Frost, of course, as well. So Cambry Clinton, Jaden McMahon on the outside, 2 big names to remember. And then another one that's a senior now this year, in Sarah Staggy. Sarah came in, played, what'd she play? She played 7 games for Denver last year. And in those 7 games, averaged 8.7 points a game. She's got the ability to score. She's got the ability to handle the rock. And I especially think if you can take ball handling responsibilities off of Cambry Clinton, not because she can't handle ball handling responsibilities, because she absolutely can, but I think if you free her up to really hunt her shot, that could do a lot of good for this team. So you're looking at those four. You're looking at Sarah Staggy, Jada McMahon, Lila Meyer, and Cambry Clinton. Those four, you got to imagine, are kind of going to be the big guns for this Denver squad. And they're good. I mean, they're all good athletes and, you know, can do a good job. They've got certainly a role to play, I should say. Now, who's going to be that fifth? Who's going to be that fifth person that comes in? What type of player are they? That's going to go a long way to deciding what this team can be once they decide who that fifth player is. Now, Denver is a team, well, as I've mentioned a couple of times, they're just not real big, and I'm not sure they're going to have a whole lot of depth either. And both of those things can be a hurdle in playing good, solid defense and stopping the other team. And so I think that, too, will be a key for this Denver team this year. Can they hold teams down? They kind of have the makeup where if the other team's not shooting well and Denver gets going, and I think they're going to want to play fairly quick, once they get going, man, they can be deadly for sure. But if the other team is hitting, if the other team is hitting shots, you know, is getting a lot of what they want on the offensive side of the ball, I think this Denver team is going to have to be wary of the ability to get put away a little bit early. And the good thing about this team is they can shoot threes, and they do shoot three-pointers. And so if they can hit a higher percentage of those three-pointers this year, even if they go down big against maybe a more talented team, maybe a bigger, more physical team, they do have the ability to shoot themselves back into a game. And when you've got that, you're never out of a ball game, and that's fantastic. But there's no doubt there are some deficiencies on this team. Size and depth, I think, would probably be the biggest two that I see at this juncture. And play some really tough teams as well. The schedule is not going to be super nice to Denver. They're definitely going to go through some wars by the time we hit postseason play time, hit tourney time, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle the rough seas, if you will. I'm interested, like in the middle of the season, I really want to see where they're at, how they're handling things. This is a team that I think if they have a great start, boy, that could balloon into something special. I think if they struggle at the start, things could go south for this team. So we'll have to see. You take a look back to that team last year. They had about 125 or so more turnovers than assists. You know, you'll find teams that are much worse than that, but you know, you want that turnover number down. We want it well down, and you want the assist number up a little bit too. I mean, obviously, if you can get it to 1-to-1, that would be great. More assists than turnovers, obviously, that's ideal. They did pull down 30.8 rebounds per game last year. We talked about that. However, they lose Emma Larson. I just think that's a big, big loss for this team. Who's going to step up and take over the reins for Emma Larson, that Emma Larson role on this Denver squad? Because while Lila Meyer is a very good rebounder and very physical and a bulldog, as I mentioned before, she can't do it all her own on the inside. I should mention Sarah Staggy did average 5.7 rebounds per game. I see her more as a perimeter-type player, but perhaps, especially on the defensive side of the ball, she can help out on the glass as well. Now, an interesting thing from last year is that Denver scored double the amount of points in the fourth quarter than any of the other three quarters. That's extremely interesting. To me, that tells me that they did not start well. They did not get out of the gates quickly. They didn't get out of the gates the way they wanted to, and didn't quite catch their groove until the fourth quarter, and maybe, were down at that point and really had to start pouring it on. It does also tell me that there were some games last year probably where they were getting blown out, and the other team had put in their backups a little bit, and Denver was able to put up some points then. But there is some in there of they just didn't start quick, and so finding a remedy to that. How can we start quicker? How can we get out of the gates better? You know, that would be a huge thing this time around for this Denver squad. Point differential, they averaged losing. The negative point differential there, they averaged losing 4.2 points per game. So that's pretty close. That tells me there were a number of games that, you know, if they didn't win, they were close. They were in. And so, you know, if you can shoot a lot better, not a lot better, I guess, if you can shoot better from the outside, more accurately, you know, and continue to pull down rebounds, that'll go a long ways to seeing what this team can do. So what that brings me to then is sort of my rating system. And if you've seen the prior videos, you'll know this system. A 1 means that you're a title contender. 2 means that you're a state tournament contender, a team that probably should expect to be at the state tournament or very near the state tournament. A 3 is a team that is looking to, you know, win more games than lose. And you know, if you can put together a run at the end of the season, you know, that would be the dream, really. Put together a run in the postseason. And a 4 would be a rebuilding team, a team that, you know, maybe is making up for losing a bunch of seniors, or just a program that hasn't had much success, at least in the recent past. So that's the system. I would give this Denver team a 3. Yeah, I'm giving this Denver team a 3. I think, you know, they're 7-15 last year. I think the record, yeah, I think it's going to be better. I don't know that it's going to be a ton better. I think a 500 record for this Denver team would be, I think you would have to be, I don't know if have to be happy is necessarily the way to say that, but I think that's probably, in all honesty, from an outsider looking in, you know, I don't have a dog in the fight. I think that would be where I would put this team if they could get to 500. And you never know. Once you get into postseason, if you can put together a run, perhaps you can and get yourself to state. You never know what can happen at that point. But I would say this is a team that's looking to just win more games than not, and see how far they can extend their season. There are some very nice players in this roster, as I've talked about. It'd be very interesting to see how this season goes for the Denver Cyclones. Now that's going to do it for me here this time around. Remember, stick around a little bit later on. We will have the boys of Denver, their preview video. So until then, my name's Taylor Nitz. Okay, bye.